Get off the bed! Oh, this is the hardest video. Well, oh well, this is the hardest video I've ever had to make in my 5 years on YouTube. Sorry, you guys. I left that first party. I didn't know I was recording. I was trying to set up the camera so I could get my man in the background. This is sitting on the bed here. So I've slept well for the last 10 years with this on my wall, knowing that symbolically that is what he does. He looks over us all. I was in the middle of work today and I got the news on my phone as I was listening on the Nightmare Plumbing job that Charlie Kirk had been shot, in Utah doing what Charlie Kirk does, engaging people very respectfully, but very honestly, and with a Christian value base and a American attitude base. It's not conservative. They label everything as ultra conservative and Trump. And no, what's conservative now used to be just American values. You know, protect your children, let them play out like we did. I'm 64 years old. I grew up in a time where at 4 years old I was sitting on a fire hydrant at the corner of my street where I lived in Farmers Branch, Texas, Dallas, outskirts of Dallas. And I can remember having to climb up high enough, being able to climb up and finally sit on the fire hydrant on my corner. Alone, a 4-year-old on the street. And my mom was not sitting there watching me out the window, I'm pretty sure. Get off the bed! Get away! Again, that's why that on that clip I was trying to get set up, and the cats, I have a lot of cats. This is their home, is on the bed with me. So they hop up and I took my anger out on them. and this little guy sitting here wondering, what the hell are you doing, Bayou? This is my support animal. But, Peanut, get away, stop. And you can see he knows something's going on. But, as I'm listening and I hear Charlie Kirk has been shot in the neck in Utah, they have a suspect in custody. And I've been to Utah. I ski in Utah. Beautiful, beautiful state, beautiful mountains. I loved it. The Mormon, I've been through the Mormon tabernacle, the Mormon, whatever the fuck that is. When I was there, you couldn't even buy sodas. There were no drink machines. Mormonism, any rate, the beautiful state. He's there. He should not have to worry about being assassinated, talking to Mormons about protecting your children from transgender and libtard, insane, BLM, violent crime. That's just part of life bullshit that they keep feeding us. It's not. Everything that we've seen that has come in the last 10 years All the violence, every bit of violence that we have seen has come from one side, the left. They are insane. They are delusional. We had a government full of trannies and degenerate sexual perverts that were fighting to keep illegal aliens and child molesters in our country and filling them up so they would have voters, because those are the people who are going to vote for them. Well, Charlie Kirk fought against that. Charlie Kirk knew that these things, he was just honored. We call it honored. The libtards thought, oh, they're getting him on South Park. No, he embraced it. He made it his, icon thumbnail for his channel, his animated version. For it's an honor to be picked on by South Park. That's the level Charlie Kirk was. He was second to Trump in the ability to influence people, young people especially. And how many of these young people that have talked to him and heard, not asking him questions, but heard his answers to fighting against transgender, child mutilation, the leftist, ideology of communism for this country, that made them think twice before they damaged their life for the rest of their life. This is the worst political assassination this country has seen since John F. Kennedy. Make no doubt about it. This was a 100% political assassination. And I don't believe that it was just happenstance that he was specifically answering a question about transgender mass shootings as he gets shot in the neck. And I guarantee you that this guy, they're saying that the shooter was from 200 yards away. He was wanting to put a bullet in the center of his head. But with the ballistics drop, all that, y'all know gun stuff, if you go from here, if he's 200 yards away and got him here, you know that he didn't adjust for the top. This is an assassination on free speech in America, my friends. This is an assassination on every one of us that has stood up against the communist, libtard, BLM, tranny, put your children on drugs at 4 years old because they think they're a fucking dinosaur. When I was 4 years old, I can tell y'all, I wanted to change my name to Allosaurus because I luckily had wonderful parents. I grew up in a wonderful home with a lot of intelligence around me, as opposed to violence and stupidity and delusion. And even at 4 years old, I realized that they'll never let me change my name to Allosaurus because Tyrannosaurus Rex was too long of a name. But that was the mindset of a 4-year-old child, about to turn 5 maybe. Charlie Kirk spoke to people on that level where you could reach down into some level where you would say, that's not right, cutting off, mutilating a child, is not right because they say that's what they are. You don't know what you are. People right now that are 50, I'm 64, I don't know what I am. Well, no, I can't. I take that back. I know very well what I am. And it's the 30th anniversary in October of the reason I know that, because I have been to the other side, my friends. I have the rare privilege of having a glimpse of what happens, because I fell 10 feet upside down on my head, crashed into a concrete step, and walked away from it that night at 1 o'clock in the morning from the hospital. Never even having a hospital room. They left me in the fucking hallway in Parkland in Dallas. But I was dead and came back. I have a memory of it. I know that there is something beyond this, and I'm terrible at funerals because I rejoice the fact that people have gotten to get it's like when you're waving off people when they're leaving on a cruise. And you say, have a good time, and you're in for a blast. But when it's someone who's 31 years old, with a wife, 2 little children, who is speaking only the truth against what has become whatever they're changing the name, MS now, which is BS now, bullshit no one watches. He was a divisive personality. They don't even know if he's just been shot. They're saying, oh, he was a divisive person. He was electrifying. He was, basically saying he deserved. And now they're coming out outright saying, well, when you speak to these things, you should expect violence. When you talk violence, you should expect violence back. No, free speech is not violence. I grew up. The first rule I learned as a little kid from my mom. How stupid is this? Is sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And with that in mind, I lived my life never, I was the quirky kid that was the duck hunter whenever nobody was, and I grew up in a little town and said, I was always the one that was like, the quirky kid. I didn't care, I went out when I, but it's not about me. But I'm just saying the influences of things that go on that impact you from young ages throughout your life. I'm sorry, the camera's moving. The cats are gathered. But this is a political assassination, and it is an attack on every one of us that is a freedom-loving, free speech-loving American. And whenever it's coming from every angle, the mainstream media, get off the bed, stop it. The mainstream media, the WNBA is an example of the Democratic Party. The BLM is an example of the Democratic Party. Every negative thing that you see that goes on in our society is supported by the Democratic Party, the libtards. And now they have gone to the ultimate step of assassinating a man who had nothing more than a desire to spread truth and knowledge to young people on college campuses. I remember watching when Trump was first came down the escalator and the first riots that started from Berkeley, watching the girl that had the red hat on get clubbed in the head by a pole that some libtard was carrying on a college campus in California, where that is supposed to be the safe space for free speech, and it is done. And again, no arrests were ever made for that. And from that time on, they if you recall, not only did the innocent girl get bashed in the head, you little boy, he just likes being held. Not only did the girl getting bashed in the head, but then they went on to light fires and smash windows. And then we continued on with the Michael Brown hands up, don't shoot bullshit line that the media grabbed and incited more racism on, whenever obviously this piece of shit scum, we're all better off for being dead. And then George Floyd, don't even get on him. They had like a million, I saw the text, they had 1 million shot searches and stories for George Floyd, but the young Ukrainian woman who was just viciously murdered for no reason in Minnesota by this subhuman piece of shit that should not even exist. Was covered. It happened 2 weeks ago and they did not even show it. I wouldn't have even known about it, except I don't watch news. I watch YouTube. I follow the YouTube Black Conservative Perspective, Black and White Sports, the Next News Network, Benny Johnson, any number, AK Nation, half of these are black run channels, and I get my information from the black guys saying this shit's going on and we don't, black people are insulted, black people are ashamed. Normal black people, normal Americans who happen to be black, that's what I consider them. We're all Americans, white, black, Chinese. Then you got the BLMs, which are not normal black Americans. They are the criminals. They are the 90% of crime committed by 3% of the population. And, that's a fake number. And I was like, no, it's not. That's real. All the crime committed in this country. So but those are all victims. The man that stabbed that woman, he was a victim of his own mental illness. It's not his fault. of the system. Well, Charlie Kirk is now a victim of the system. The system of communism, of anti-Americanism, of outright lawlessness. There is not a single criminal that these libtard scum have not stepped up and fought for, while their victims who have already been buried are decaying in the ground and have family. Literally, in this country, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of family members that are mourning the death of people that should not be dead because a government allowed murderers and scum and criminals that had been arrested 14 times back into the fucking system of the population to do more murders and damage. And then blame conservatives for, oh, you're just using this as another excuse to point out black violence. Well, yeah, we don't have a racism problem in this country. We have a race problem. We have a bunch of violent black criminal men between the ages of 10, 11. In New Orleans, 6. 6-year-old murdering black kid to the ages of 45, 55, 60, whatever you want to go up to the top. It's not racism, it's race. And then you got your trannies. The murdering trannies, psycho trannies, doped up on drugs. Who knows? The FDA, have they done long-term studies on what happens when you put a young child on hormones before they've even reached puberty, and then follow them for 20 years to see where that, you pump up a woman up with testosterone. Men get pumped up with testosterone. They become violent, roid rage. What do you think a woman's going to do whenever she's pumped up with it, fighting against her hormones of what nature's telling her she should do this? And not to mention, what happens when she goes on her period? Again, another whole video, but that's why there should be no women doing half of any of the things they do just because they have a monthly period. When if you've been around them, you don't want to be around them for that week or 9 days. That's another story. We're talking about Charlie Kirk. But again, these are all things that he pointed out, which is just ridiculous absurdities in American politics that has become, the anchor for an entire political party to commit violence. Steve Scalise, they wanted to kill the whole Republican softball team, Two attempted assassinations on President Trump. The murder. What happened to all those the murder of those Minnesota on the Day of Kings when they did the violent riots in LA? But it started out with the guy murdering 2 different Minnesota, politicians, assassinating them in their homes. Where's all the detail, in-depth, nothing. Charlie Kirk asked those questions. Charlie Kirk engaged. He was the largest fundraiser for young Republicans and conservatives. He got their attention. He made them. He could speak to them, and as us. He did it. They divide groups. Common sense is common sense. Even if you've been raised in a family that are retarded, delusional scumbags, when you hear common sense and those few words that say, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not what they said. That gets you started. Then you might start looking in, investigating. The one thing I've told young people, all people, is find the thing that you hate the most, the thing that you're least disinterested in, and look into it, study it, and from that you may find wondrous ideas and interests that you would never have expected because you've rejected outright something on the basis of what you think. But once you delve into it, that might not be the source, but then that will lead you to something else. It's all a matter of expanding your mind, and that's what Charlie Kirk did. He expanded people's minds, and at the same time, he always held the Judeo-Christian beliefs that built this country, and again, that's under attack too. I'm sure he would have gotten around to the fact that there's I think it's Minnesota, whatever shithole country, state it is, where the police have now put Arabic writing on the badges. comfort the population, which is mostly Nazi Islam, taking over this country. And the infection has started. They're already in multiple major cities in this country, instituting Sharia law, running. We've seen the ones that were running fucking city government. Every one of them was corrupt. The basis of Nazi Islam is to lie to whatever extent is needed to make sure that the infidels are replaced by their almighty murder cult. The giant mosaic of this goes so far beyond Charlie Kirk. But he is going to be the focal point. I guarantee you, my friends, this is not going to be just another killing. This is going to be a fundamental, it's going to have ramifications far beyond what you would think is going on. Because right now, as of now, I think I would predict this will be the end of all any outdoor gatherings by conservatives. The libtards can gather by millions, raving flags, burning flags, shitting on flags. They burned down the church next to the White House in 2019 when Trump was in there. Media didn't cover that. January 6th is the insurrection. No, not burning down an ancient, historical church in Washington. But the media is your enemy. Because they are extensions of the libtard communist left, which is your major enemy of this country. And now they have taken the life of a wonderful man, 31 years old. He may well have gone on to be, give it, a decade. He might have been one of the next great presidents of this country. But meanwhile, he's got a wife and 2 young children under 5 that'll never see their daddy again, who didn't come home from going to talk to kids at a college in Utah. Because he spoke out against what normal, sane, cogent Americans, if you have the ability to think analytically, to think independently, to not buy into every piece of bullshit. And you don't watch the legacy media that feeds the same crap. They're a well-known mouthpiece of the left, because that is what they do. That's their money. And the fact that this man is gone, and I wasn't even a big, I watched Charlie Kirk. I loved him. As far as watching, I've been watching him for years on and off. I'm not a big, Charlie Kirk fanatic. And I thought it was great with South Park. But there are a lot of people that held him up in much higher regard than I did, and I just respected him for as another YouTube personality. Never thought that he would be one that would be targeted. Although, when he would talk about the transgenders and the violence, I often was surprised that it looked like somebody was going to charge him. But there was nothing that he ever said that was hateful. It was always facts responding to delusion. And you cannot reason with delusion. Another, I had a girlfriend, a girl I dated. She was a dancer. Met up with her, loved her. She fell in love with me, but after a few weeks, something was wrong. You're talking gibberish. I don't understand. Talking about, this is long before, but the spirits on the bayou, and the bayou were talking to her, and she wrote. I actually wrote that movie. And it was some kind of popular Hollywood movie, and I'm going telling her, Malia, you did not, her real name was Penny, but she had whatever dancer name was. I'm telling her, you did not write. I'm trying to reason with her, and like a, it was written, there's no, you're short of saying delusional or you're a liar, but and then I ended up talking to one of her friends at the club and said that yes, when she's off her meds, That's what happens to her. And she'd been off her meds. I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't been with her that long. Didn't stay with her that long. But that's the level we're dealing with. They've got these people so pumped up on every kind of, if it's not on drugs, it's on the rhetoric of Trump's a Nazi. The right are Nazis. We're all Nazis. We're all fascists. We're all for the destruction of the country, even though when you flip the camera over here, all you see is destruction in the cities that are controlled by the people that are saying, you're the ones doing it. So, again, this hit me really hard. Not because it was Charlie Kirk, although the great loss of this man and what he did and the message that he got out is going to be a fundamental blow to the MAGA party, because we've lost one of our great soldiers. But I would hope that Turning Point America was his baby. He is what, and he has made a turn. He has started the turning point for America by getting to the young people, and that's what they can't take. So, while I rejoice in the fact that I know that he is on the greatest adventure, it's inexplicable of what lays beyond. But when you have I said I consider myself very privileged to even have this. I often ask myself, is it just delusion? Are you imagining what that was? But I prefer, and the reality of it to me was that yes, no matter what it is, when we're done with this is just the beginning. This is all, and that's been my problem for 30 years, because I realized from then that this is all just window dressing and a facade. So you can enjoy it, you make the best of it, but what the difference is, the good you do. There's a reason the Bible says it's easier for it's easier to fly a camel through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to go to heaven, just because of the corruption and the deceit and the rot that usually greed brings into your souls. And that's why I have no fear that when Trump's mentioned about wanting to get to heaven, because it's not. Spoiler alert, it's not what you think it. But to move to a higher level of existence and of being, he's well on his way. And Charlie Kirk is there now. And, well, we will mourn his absence and we'll miss him as his loving wife and children will suffer with this now for the rest of their lives, because some insane libtard leftist did not like what a man was saying about something he disagreed with and put a bullet in his head. And again, I would not be surprised if there will not be much more cooperation and coordination involved in this. I wanted to see the guy, because it just so happened that the guy asking the question about transgenders, mass shootings by transgenders, and that's the question he got shot on. I want that guy called in, bring him in, look at every bit of his electronic, and open up his computer, and see who he's been talking to, and I'll bet you might be able to trace that shooter through that guy. You're the setup man. I'll take the shot. We're gonna make a point. Don't be telling people not to mutilate your children. Trannies are fine. And that's the next thing I want to say on this. There needs to be a law in this country that will ban transgenders from having weapons. Any queers. They need to go back. AMA changed it in 1990 under force of political pressure, because the leftists were already starting to get gripped in. Homosexuality has always been considered as a mental illness. It is a mental illness. If you don't know what sex you are, if you don't know what sex you're supposed to be attracted to, your wiring is wrong. So that means that everything else that comes from that brain is somehow distorted or warped. Scott, the guy we have now, is a Republican that's our financial guy or whatever. I'm not happy with it. No, there's no reason to have a queer in the White House, period. I don't care if he's a conservative. You can't tell me that there was not a man that is a heterosexual, all-American, normal man that they could not have put in that position that could do the job just as well as this queer Scott Bissett does. And I don't disrespect him for being a queer. It is what it is. But that means that you give it to men up the ass. That's gross. That's sodomy. That is a biblical sin if you guys follow Christianity. But all that's overlooked whenever it fits the thing. So again, we're not acolytes. When you see this hat, this is not about Trump. This is about America. Trump represents what we want America to be. He has the idea to bring us in. We don't follow Trump. We follow the Trump agenda. We follow MAGA. We follow America first. He is our leader. We will call him out on things that we disagree with, but we will always support him. Charlie Kirk is dead now because the other side knows nothing but violence, hate, degeneracy, immorality, no ethics. Name one thing that these people have done in 10 years that you can say, oh yeah, that was good for the country. Oh yeah, that helped. The blood on their hands is so deep that it's immeasurable at this point, between Biden, between the judges that let these people out, that piece of shit with 14 arrests. We need to start arresting judges. Judges should be, well, you can't do that. Nobody will be a judge. Well, if they're scared of being caught, they shouldn't be a judge. That's the stopgap. Yeah, if we see that you're ruling on letting violent criminals out freely, not only will you be disbarred, you will be charged for whatever crime that you can nail on a judge for, complicity in murder. There are thousands of libtard judges in this country that are responsible directly for the murder of tens of thousands of Americans right now, of people that they let out that have continued to murder. Charlie Kirk is now a victim of one of those, I'm sure. This guy, I'm sure, will probably have a long history of records of watched by the FBI. I don't know, maybe not. I'm not going to be Rosie. Rosie O'Donnell came on and said, "Oh yeah, that tranny shooter. That's more MAGA. White MAGA. Oh no, the stat. I forget. She's so stupid. She gets so much wrong. But whatever it was, she came out and apologized for jumping the gun. I just assume every violence is from MAGA. Those Nazi fascists. I've never been called a Nazi until 2010. Now I'm referred to as a Nazi generally, and every time they talk about us, as all of you are, the Nazis murdered millions and millions upon millions of people, and were the most vile group that has ever taken control. Until the libtard Democrats now. They are the new Nazi party in this America. And unless we recognize that, call that out, and destroy them, America's going to fall, my friends. And that's why this is so impactful. This is why this is such a pivotal moment in American history, because Charlie Kirk, like I said, is the most there's the brain injury. I used to have a very high vocabulary level, but it's been fading because I went through a year of brain therapy whenever I fell, and it's starting to catch up with me. But whatever it is, now I forgot the whole damn point of what that phrase was. But Charlie Kirk was a man that spoke the truth, and he was assassinated by a political libtard left ideology supported by politicians that have repeatedly called all of us fascists, Nazis. If you've got a Nazi, what do you do with a Nazi? You want to kill him. That's just the subliminal connection in your mind. Nazism bad, eradicated at all purpose, at all costs. And when you have a bunch of delusional people who think they're men, who think they're women, women who think they're men, criminals who think that they're victims, congressmen that think that the deaths of tens of thousands of Chicago blacks by other Chicago blacks, it's just part of being life in the big city. Those are the enemies that we have to fight. And it seems insurmountable whenever you've got half the country that has become that warped and that just delusionally insane. But on this day, thank you, my boy. You worked my support animal. But yeah, it's like I said, it hit me hard, not because of Charlie Kirk, but because of what this assassination represents to the freedom of speech in America and what we know this country as. If you cannot go out, and he would engage, it's not even free speech, it was debate, open debate. Jason Chavez, our previous senator and congressman, he was there with his family. He witnesses. He was good friends with a lot of these people were good. I've been listening to Buck and Clay on Outtake and any number of Sean Hannity and but all these people knew him and have worked with him and been around him, and it hits on a personal level. And while I said I don't have that personal level with him, the personal level that hits to me is it's America. This is an attack on America. This is an attack on us. And if we do not come up with something, some way to eradicate these people and this ideology, we've tried being nice. We're not going to stoop to their level. Just like Big Mike Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. Well, you go high to drop a bomb on innocent, American citizens in another country when you drone strike them. Is that what you're talking about? The only thing they go high on was the bags of cocaine. Obama, our first closeted homosexual, drug-using cocaine president, who was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he ran on change, and the change he wanted was, let's turn this country Nazism. And we're living his dream now. So Charlie Kirk, rest in peace, my friend. Like I said, I know that you and I don't know, y'all might not want to hear this, but once you get on the other side, all of this is irrelevant. It's like watching a TV show, and you may be engaged in saying, oh, that, like on me whenever I look down on myself laying there dead, I think that person looks so alone down there. But it wasn't me I was looking at. It was just an entity, but I was still existing in another realm, separate from everything else. And it was just a second, but I can remember that thought going through my mind. So I know in my heart, and I have never had any other questions, that once we're gone, this is all window dressing. You shed this crap off, and physics tells us, energy cannot be destroyed; it can only transition. And we transition to a higher state of being, and I'm sure that Charlie is in a good place now, but that does not help us here left behind. Who will miss his insight and the potential that this young man had for when he was 31, 60, 70. Hell, by the time he was getting up there, they'd start having the stem cell stuff. He might have been up to 100, 120. But we'll never know, because there's some maniac scumbag who was so deranged that the words that this man would say, and not even in a hateful way, always balancing it on biblical terms and Christian things that I was raised Catholic, but when they couldn't explain to the 5-year-old how dinosaurs fit into their 6,000 years, and at that point, my analytical mind was already going saying, something's not right here, and I was, but I stayed with the church for many years. I played guitar with them. That's why I stayed till I was even a teenager. But the Judeo-Christian foundations are what built this country. This is a Judeo-Christian white country. That's what set us apart, because white people do not trash themselves, do not trash their neighborhoods, they do not trash each other for the most part. But as a group, we work, we build, we create. Show me one thing that any of these groups have created other than destruction, death, hypocrisy, and the destruction of an entire nation that is about to celebrate its 250th anniversary, birthday. But you look at Rome, they made it through thousands of years, broken up, of course, but we're like this on the scale of developmental civilization. And as long as we have people like this that are going to stifle, willing to die, willing to kill, to stop free speech, because they're so afraid that it will actually transcend and influence future generations, which is what ideas have always done. That's why we are where we are now. I mean, just looking at the fact that in less than 70 years, we went from learning to fly to putting a man on the moon. Name one civilization, society that has ever been able to move in any kind of technological way that way. Because when you have a country that's based and bound together, you can accomplish great things. This country is not. Half of it is retarded. Well, we'll say, it was accepted. A quarter of the country is retarded. At this point, I'm believing a full, third or better are mentally retarded in somewhere. I mean, legitimately not right. Their minds, they have delusions. That's why they're all on these pills that they take to get it through their day. No. So yes, my friends, at this point I'll say goodbye, and again, I have no interest in doing anything with gold. It seems so frivolous and just petty. Just a non-factor in anything. There's no way I could go out there and dig in a bottle of gold and matter. So this week, this is it, my friends. And if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is and you're seeing this, look him up. Look up some of his speeches. Look at the way he goes to the college campuses and engages these young people. But I'm telling you, this is the end of outdoor gatherings like this. We had Trump shot in the head. We had this now. The assassination was complete. This is what they wanted for Trump. This picture right here. This is what came from one shot from the Secret Service of the piece of shit that put a bullet in Trump's head. I want to see the same thing for this next guy. So until the next time, my friends, hopefully we will be on a much better term. But what? How long have I been talking? I may be talking too long. I don't give a shit. Y'all can scan through it. I'm doing this mostly for me rather than you. I apologize. That's when I do my videos. It's always the clock. I always try to make sure everything's in. I don't want to waste anybody's time. If you're taking the time to watch me, I want to make sure there's something in it. I don't want to have dead air or stupid music playing in the background while I'm doing shit. But like I said, it's I'm having a hard time dealing with this one because beyond Charlie Kirk, this is a fundamental blow and attack on MAGA, America First, Donald Trump, Clay and Buck. I think Clay, either Clay or Buck or one was supposed to be speaking in a large crowd tomorrow. You don't think they're because they're very, very vocal supporters of Trump and pointing out the atrocities that are committed on the left. That the media continues to call, just politics and how horrible everything on the right is. But while the left can do no wrong, and there are so many stupid, illiterate, uneducated, I mean, just I don't even know what level to describe the stupidity of people that cannot even absorb basic facts or basic information and analyze it. Critical thinking, put things together and say this doesn't make sense, this does, and you come to a level that we're losing that by the tens of millions in this country, and that's a recipe for failure. So either we put a stop to this, I'm sorry, either we make Turning Point America our new battle cry for Turning Point. This is the turning point on America. This is the time where conservatives, not Republicans. I've never been a Republican. Republicans suck. Democrats suck. I hated them all. I never voted for any of them until Trump. I always voted independent. But this is the turning point, and it's a fitting name, and a great. Fuck you guys! I swear my vocabulary is going so bad I can't come up with words I had. But his connection. Turning Point America should become our rallying cry to put down these scumbags. Stop watching MSNBC. Stop watching. Most people have. Excuse me. Don't get your news from mainstream media. Go on YouTube. Look for independent channels because they're going to give you the facts as they recover. They go in depth. WPW Pro is a great one. But, all right, my friends, again, like I said, this was more cathartic for me than just for you to share this, because this shows this is an open wound in America, and that's what we're feeling right now. It's not the loss of one man, but the symbolism of what his assassination is to this country. And unless we take this time to stand up and stand against it, we're going to fall. I'm reminded of one of my favorite scenes from Picard and Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan, and on First Contact, when he's talking to the girl about the Borg, and he said, They take our land and we fall back. They destroy us and we fall back. The atrocities they perform and we fall back. No more. We will fall back no more. And this is the time where we will say we will fall back no more. We are going to start retaliating against these scumbags in any way that is possible in the opportunity that we have. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about putting out information, doing your channels, spreading the word, make sure that people know how horrible, because there's still independents and liberals, that even Democrats that are looking at this saying, no, I don't want my kid to have his wiener cut off because he's 6 years old and says he's a girl and he knows he's going to be a girl for the rest. But that's the level that we're dealing with. How can you work? How can you reason with that kind of psychology of delusion? That gender-affirming care is what they call mutilating children. So Charlie Kirk, he fought against that. That was one of his main things, was to stop this indoctrination of our young children and our young people by the most insidious, vulgar, gross life that you could ever, partake in, which is the life of homosexuality, short of the life of BLM or the life of being a libtard politician. And again, they all, if you had one of those Venn diagrams that Camel Toe Harris loves so much, just imagine what this country would have been in right now if that bullet right here for Trump had only been, if he had not been here, if he had not, look at that thing, if he had turned his head this much more, cheekbone, eye, brain out, dead. Whenever I heard this about Charlie, that was the hope that I was holding on to. But we knew Trump. He stood up, the fist, fight, fight, fight. And by God, he's never stopped fighting. And will never stop fighting. But just know that whether you call it the hand of God or the fickle finger of fate, it did not touch that bullet today. And what I'm sure, like I said, was one they wanted right here, or right here between the eyes. When you allow for fall and ballistics, it got him here. And even when I was hearing the thing, I was thinking, well, they said he fell forward and didn't sit up. Well, that severed your spinal cord. And then it was a couple hours later that it was announced that he did not survive. So, all right, my friends. Well, like I said, we'll put up something for Hurricane Memory for Friday that I'll repost. But this is I don't care about gold. Gold's frivolity. It's that's why I apologize. You won't see Bayou Gold guy in like this again, hopefully, but like I said, it was as much for me as for you guys to put this out. So take care. Prayers to his family. Support for his wife, his two young children that will never see their daddy. And they've even asked him why, he had no police security. There were no police around there. He had his group. But, he was asked, why do you put yourself in these positions with these lunatics? They're lunatics that they have shown to be repeatedly violent, whether it was destroying Tesla cars, burning down dealerships, attacking people on the street, the Summer of Love, burning down whole cities because of the narrative that a piece of shit drug dealer, George Floyd, who fought police and OD'd on his own fentanyl that he tried to swallow before they got to him, has banners and has statues, and it has been acclaimed, while the police officer who was doing his job, following their city's codes for handling violent, this guy was this much taller than the cop was. He was a giant, stupid, criminal, violent piece of shit. and it was all he could do to hold him down as he's yelling, "I can't breathe." Well, believe me, I've had the wind knocked out of me. When you can't breathe, you can't say, "I can't breathe." But he is in prison right now, and they still refer to him as, Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd. He did not murder George Floyd. The autopsy shows he died of fentanyl overdose. But don't let the facts interfere with mainstream media to send out their vile narrative to you, so you will bend to their will and to their ideas of what you should be doing to stop Trump and to stop all of us they're commie. We're all fascist Nazis. They're the commies. But I'll tell you this: America lost a great patriot today. That's someone who, at 31 years old, would have been, I would predict, a very integral and important fixture in the future of American politics, and they assassinated him. And this is the guy they wanted. They couldn't get him. They took that. He's still under threat. Every day we have to worry about him coming home. But for Charlie's family, they'll never see him again. And that's a wound on all of America, because that attack was on all of us. And don't forget that.